Junk economics strikes again, and for the first time, Yemeni bodega owners. I'm Laura Flanders. This week, economist Michael Hudson on J is for Junk Economics, and a report from the Diverse Filmmakers Alliance on the Yemeni bodega workers who went on strike in New York to protest the Muslim ban. You're listening to The Laura Flanders Show, the place where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the ones who are doing it. The decline of language must ultimately have political and economic causes, said George Orwell in Politics in the English Language, published in 1946. The decline of language isn't the only relevant Orwellian theme of the times we're currently living in, but thankfully it is one that economist and author Michael Hudson's taken on in his latest book, J is for Junk Economics, a guide to reality in an age of deception. Originally written as an appendix, Hudson's created an economic dictionary that challenges a vocabulary of deception used by the media and political elites to create what he describes as an economy of a parallel universe. And it has the majority of Americans acting against their own best interests. Michael Hudson is with me today to discuss his latest book. I asked him to set straight this economic doublespeak.
I'm really excited to have you back on the program, Michael. It's great to see you.
It's good to be back.
So this book was 10 years in the making. In that period, have you seen any new, exciting, or terrifying obfuscations, lies, and ways of talking about the economy?
Well, fortunately, things got worse and worse since 2008, and as a result, I greatly expanded it, made it a completely different book, and also I made the whole focus on the vocabulary, because economics has turned into an Orwellian vocabulary where words mean exactly the opposite of what they used to mean.
So give us an example.
Well, reform. Reform used to mean for labor unions and consumer protection and regulation. Now reform is used by the IMF. It means you have to cut back wages, you have to shift taxes off the 1% on to consumers, you have to scale back pensions, you have to scale back Social Security, and you have to impose austerity. So it's just the opposite. It's as if the rentier class, another word that has fallen out of use, the rentier class has won, and they now call themselves the job creators.
That's right.
Instead of the idle rich or the free lunchers or the words that people used to know them by.
What, in your view, is an economy for? It's a question I like to ask economists. What do you think an economy is actually about?
It's about letting people who don't work make all the economic gains for themselves, leaving nothing for the people who actually do work.
Well, that's what it is. What should it be?
It should be just the opposite. The whole idea of Adam Smith and John Stuart Mill and all of the classical economists that are considered the patron saints of free marketers, their idea of free market was exactly the opposite. So here we have another Orwellian turn. For Adam Smith, a free market was a market free of landlords. You wouldn't have them anymore. That was the first thing that he picked up in his travels in France with the physiocrats. John Stuart Mill said, economic rent is what landlords make in their sleep without working. And he wanted the government, basically they were called Ricardian socialists. They wanted the government to collect all the rent so that the only income people would get would be income they make from actually being productive, for making things, for making goods and services. And now the idea of productivity is just the reverse. It's defined as how much money Goldman Sachs, for instance, can make from the rest of the economy without doing any work.
Is there anything new in the way Trump or his colleagues talk about the economy insofar as you can make sense of it? You're making the point that it's difficult to make sense of in the best of times.
I don't think he really talks about the economy. He talks about, here's a beautiful picture, how America could be, and he never talks about how he'll get there, never talks about what he'll do. In his speeches before Congress, there isn't a program, so I have no idea what he believes.
He does throw out words like infrastructure spending, nationalism, fair trade. I mean, language that crops up in his speeches we have heard before, even if we've no idea what meanings are attached now.
The meanings now are very different from what they used to be. In the late 19th century, Simon Patton, who was the first economics professor at the first business school, the Wharton School of Business, said America's going to get rich on infrastructure because it's a fourth factor of production besides labor, land, and capital. Public infrastructure actually is the largest capital investment in every economy.
Now we're talking schools, roads,
everything.
Hospitals.
Yes, and these are most of the investment of every country is in this. And Patton pointed out that the objective of schools and education and roads isn't to make a profit. It's just the opposite. It's to lower the cost of living and lower the cost of doing business, because if the government provides this social infrastructure free or on a subsidized basis, then you can afford to undersell other countries that have privatized the infrastructure. So when Donald Trump talks about private-public partnership, he means infrastructure for profit.
So we're told that everything that's private is better than everything that's public. It's not true, but is that the case that he's making again today?
Well, better for whom? It's better for the stock underwriters. It's better for the owners. The reason infrastructure was in the public domain for hundreds of years in Europe was because they're natural monopolies, and you don't want monopolists to own the roads or the schools or the cable systems or the health insurance, because they will try to squeeze the monopoly for whatever the market will bear, and that's called rent extraction. And if you privatize it for profit, then the cost of using these roads, the cost of using education, the cost of using water and sewer are going to rise so much that the economy is going to begin looking like England after Margaret Thatcher.
So talk about the importance of this conversation about infrastructure right now, because we just had a housing crisis that was created out of the financial class's desperation to find something else they could trade and make a buck on. Is the infrastructure the last thing that private capitalists have to exploit?
It's like conquering a new country. It's the largest amount of wealth in the world that has not been privatized and grabbed. And basically, privatization is what the Russians call it grabbitization. And the way you grab it is financially. You force cities and states and governments into deficit, and you say, well, you can't pay the loans like Greece. You'll have to repay by selling off the public domain. Sell us your ports. Sell us your land. Sell us your museums. Sell us your tourist sites. Sell us your schools, your electric companies, and now we will privatize them. And now, once they're privatized, not only do you have to pay profit, you have to pay interest, you have to pay management fees. The company looks like something Mitt Romney would have taken over. And you have huge capital gains, and you have to pay this in a foreign currency, because they're usually foreigners.
I'm speaking with Michael Hudson, president of the Institute for the Study of Long-Term Economic Trends. And you're listening to The Laura Flanders Show.
Dirty money, oh. Dirty money, not go hold up. I say, oh, dirty money, oh. Dirty money, not the float, oh.
That's Dirty Money by Anti-Ballas from their self-titled album released on the Daptone Records. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter at lauraflanders.com. And now back to Michael Hudson.
Greece, there was resistance.
Yes.
In this country, is there resistance? Do you see it out there? Did Bernie Sanders provide an alternative way of looking things? Does Elizabeth Warren?
Well, there have not been any marches against it. There's no been march.
Early days so far.
Early days, but the marches have been divided into non-economic identity. You don't have a working class march. You don't have a wage earners march. You don't have a peace march. You don't have an anti-war march. You don't have a march against the new Cold War. You don't have a march, keep infrastructure public. Or you don't have a march for single-payer health care. Even though Donald Trump, in one of his early campaign speeches, said, well, of course, single-payer is the most efficient, which it is. Nobody's marching about economic subjects. They've been hijacked, basically, by the Democratic donor class into women for Wall Street, LGBTQ for Wall Street, and the Cold War, and they've been hijacked for non-economic causes, and nobody's talking about these things.
Well, we sure as hell try to talk about them on this program,
yeah.
But then again, that's this. Let's talk a bit about war. You mentioned it in your catalog of things that doesn't have a strong movement around it. Wars historically have kind of rescued crisis capitalism, or capitalism in crisis. We've got a lot of them going on, but it doesn't seem to be working, or is it?
Working for whom? I mean, it's not working in the sense that Hillary's war in Libya destroyed the country and turned the arms over to ISIS, which President Obama said we're going to use ISIS to work with our friends against the bad dictator there. And essentially, this is part of Samantha Power's R2P, the responsibility to privatize, saying that if you don't protect your country and privatize it by selling to us, you're doing the wrong things, and we will have to protect you by bombing you so that there won't be any more people to oppose privatization and we can take over. So
and that's pretty consistent across multiple administrations, first Bush, Clinton, second Bush, and Obama.
Yes, it's all been as if it's a single administration, and basically it seems to be the what's called the dark state, and the people who were forcing Trump to get rid of Flynn and are now focusing their eyes on Trump, just in case he really was serious about making peace with Russia.
I call it the light state. Come on now.
What?
Let's call it the light state for
state.
once. Let's touch on a couple of other things. One, I do want to hear what you made of the Bernie Sanders campaign and whether you think Elizabeth Warren provides any kind of alternative. And then finally, I think there's a lot of people out there who'd like some help in how do they make sense of the reporting that's coming their way. Among other things, we're being told the stock market is soaring, and that's somehow good for all of us.
That the idea is bait and switch. The idea is to make it appear as if the stock market reflects how well the economy is doing, but it's really just the opposite. Stocks are pushed up by companies not investing in expanding in production. Instead of putting money into new investment, instead of putting money into the pension funds or improving living conditions, they're using their profits for stock buybacks and basically for dividend payouts. Now, that pushes up the stock market instead of actual investment. So the higher the stock market goes, that means you're stripping the economy. It's called asset stripping. And asset stripping, which is pushing up the market, and debt leveraging, is the exact opposite of how to really get rich. So the economy is being loaded down with debt. It's deindustrialized, and all of that is applauded on the mainstream media.
You got an education in music. How did you get so smart about all this? And how can the rest of us get smarter, apart from reading your books, which is obvious?
By never taking an economics course in college. I came to New York and I met an economist, friend of my best friend Gavin McFadgen, and the economist had trained most of the Wall Street leaders. And at that time in the 1960s, all the major bank economists were Marxists. You had to know how to read a balance sheet, and you had to know that the system was all about exploitation. If you went to business school and you didn't know that, you just couldn't do very well on Wall Street. So I got fascinated with Marx's theories of surplus value. I did get a PhD in economics as a union card, and I learned everything basically working as Chase Manhattan's balance of payments economist and Arthur Andersen and for banks on Wall Street about how the economy actually worked.
And how do we get smarter? I mean, it does seem to me that in the era of Occupy Wall Street, there was a lot of talk about change in the curriculum of traditional economics teaching, whether it was at Harvard or Chicago or all the major schools. Has that progressed? Are people getting a more diversified view of economic theory, which after all is theory, not biblical truth?
No, it's almost impossible to fix a discipline that has become so rigidified. And the University of Chicago, Harvard, the free marketers realized that in order to have a free market economy, you have to have a totalitarian control of the curriculum. You can't have any discussion of history or any alternative. That's Margaret Thatcher's principle. There is no alternative. So rather than try to reform a discipline where all of the perceptive people have dropped out, you'd have to create a new discipline. I called myself a futurist since the 1970s because that wasn't tainted with economics. What is an economist? Someone who tells you to get rich by, we need austerity, we need to give money to the job creators, the 1% who really don't create jobs, they're outsourcers and downsizers. So we need a new university department in order to talk about how the world really works.
All right, so that's where I want to end. As a futurist, assuming that you have a good sense of the future, how do you describe this moment? How will history describe this moment? And you've avoided the questions about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren along the way.
Well, history of there was a turning point in 2008, and the turning point that normally would have happened to restore growth would have been to write down the debts. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of junk mortgage debt. There was so much debt that the economy could not grow under the mortgage debt and the student debt. And instead of fulfilling his campaign promise to write down the mortgages to the actual real value of buildings and the carrying charge to the rental value, Obama backed his campaign contributors, not his voters, and stood up for Wall Street, didn't cancel the debt. And so right now, as a result of what's happened in 2008, not only in America, but in Europe, that's become a dead zone for the Eurozone, in Greece, this will be the period of the slow crash, going gradually down and down and down as the debts mount up and crowd out spending on goods and services. So basically, it's an economic shrinkage that will continue until people finally think of an alternative and fight back, but the alternative is not going to come from economics departments. It'll have to come from the people realizing that things don't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be the way it is.
There is an alternative, Mrs. Thatcher, and everyone else who's paying attention. Michael Hudson, thank you so much. It's just great to talk with you again.
It's great to be back here.
I wish you were teaching economics every day.
You're listening to The Laura Flanders Show, and I'm Laura Flanders. That was economist Michael Hudson, author of J is for Junk Economics, a guide to reality in an age of deception. You can get a link to the book at lauraflanders.com. Coming up next, a special report from the Diverse Filmmakers Alliance on the Yemeni bodega workers who for the first time went on strike in New York City to protest the Muslim ban. More to come.
Money leads to more money. Fear leads to paranoia. Money leads to more money. Was very nice to know ya. He's the money man of the hour. Down Florida, highest tower. Got deals, they spread like fire. We'll push that get it higher. He's money making like meditation. He cannot resist the temptation. Money, money, money gives him vibration. Money, money, money as destination.
That's Money by Balkan Beatbox from their album Give, released on Nat Geo and crammed discs. The show's supported by listeners like you. Please consider writing us a review on iTunes and supporting independent media by going to lauraflanders.com and making a contribution. When we understand the economy better and our role in it, we can demand more of that economy and assert our power in new ways. In response to the January 27th Muslim ban, for example, Yemeni Americans across the 5 boroughs of New York City made their economic presence felt. Thousands of them closed shop on Thursday, February 2nd, to show their collective power and their place in New York's economy, which is pretty significant. The Diverse Filmmakers Alliance took a closer look at the organizers behind this historic strike.
There is real fear in the air. People are afraid of being targeted.
After 9/11, people weren't just in hiding, they just hid. They were terrified. But I was like, no, not this time.
My phone that very evening was ringing off the hook in text messages, people asking for answers. They all had a story to share, a relative or an employee impacted by the ban.
Rabia Al-Taibni, community activist.
I have my husband, who is a Yemeni national. He escaped the war in the beginning of 2015. What's going to happen to his application? Is he going to join me? He was vetted for an entire year. And for this man to all of a sudden make everyone illegal, even green card holders, just really terrifying. This can't be right. You know, I'm an American, I have rights.
Dr. Debbie Almontezer, educator and community activist.
The sorrow and devastation that I was told about that evening made them all just say we need to find some way to make our voices heard.
Zaid Nagy, bodega and small business owner.
It all started with an idea. In Facebook, someone put out the idea. We are here, we have store.
We've got power. We own like 90% of grocery stores and bodegas, bodegas in New York City.
Zaid said to me, I have a really radical idea. So of course I braced myself and I was like, what is he about to tell me that is so radical?
Let's shut down, just shut in the store, and then maybe we tie it with the protests. I think it showed Yemenis do contribute. They have businesses. They have relationship with their neighbors. They're not as bad as this executive order is trying to show them to be.
I actually got chills. I got like goosebumps. And my response to him was, this is a really great idea. Do you think you guys can actually close, all the bodegas across the 5 boroughs? That there are at least 4,000 to 6,000.
Yemenis tend to stay away from such a thing. Back in the Middle East, people ran away from politics.
For the last 4 or 5 decades, many Yemeni Americans have basically said, we're not going to talk politics. We need to just focus on what we need to do here.
In hard times, opportunities are being born. So I think it's an opportunity to change the Yemeni American mind.
And Zaid called influential business leaders to convince people to close their businesses.
Well, the social media is my role. I have more than 15,000 followers. More than half are Yemenis in New York City, and a lot of them are bodega owners, grocery store owners.
We're hoping 500 people, 1,000 people, a couple hundred stores, just to say a statement.
We had absolutely no idea that we were going to turn up 6,000 to 7,000 people that day.
Almost every area had a store or 2 or 3 closed. It's a major surprise. It's a sign of that everybody is a victim.
Wow, I get really emotional when I think about that day because it was just incredible.
I will never forget elderly men there smiling. The 14 years old who was chanting. It's just an amazing thing.
For the past 2 years, the Yemeni American community has been divided because of the war in Yemen. But for the first time, every Yemeni was there from every political affiliation that were at each other's throat just a week ago. And you know what? Donald Trump managed to unite them.
This is a segment of our city that has been dormant and now has awoken. And so what they saw was that they were a force.
This has put them on the map, it's empowered them, and now they know that they can influence.
I think the ground are laid for real change among the Yemeni American.
A number of the merchants are actually talking about the establishment of a merchants association. And they've seen the Muslim ban as an opportunity to wake them up and realize that they need to have a place at the table. The Yemeni bodega shut down will certainly go down in history, not only in New York City, but the United States.
Now in the Bay Area, California, bodega strike. In DC, they're striking. There's, the women's march leaders the day after we had ours are like, yeah, a day without women.
Seeing, the chants, refugees are welcome here, or no wall, if it wasn't for those people coming out, we would not have the guts to do so. The moment we saw what we have, people with us, it made it easy. It's an amazing portrait being drawn in front of me, that people rise to do what's right. Don't underestimate the value of anything good that you do.
Yes, we are Americans. You are Americans. America is the land of freedom. And the people coming to America deserve to be free from all prosecution from the dictatorship.
That was a special report from the Diverse Filmmakers Alliance, taking a closer look at the organizers behind the Yemeni bodega workers' strike in New York City. You can also watch a special report at our website. Earlier in the show, I was joined by economist Michael Hudson. You can find out more about his work at our website. That's lauraflanders.com. Music featured in this show came by way of Antibalas and Balkan Beatbox. You can find out more at lauraflanders.com. And be sure to subscribe to our TV show and podcast. Write to me. I love to hear from you. Personally, I take the time to read your emails and respond as much as I possibly can. I'm Laura Flanders, signing off. Thanks for joining me.